Hey, Mike Matthews from Muscle for Life and Legion Athletics here. And in this video podcast, we are going to talk about reverse dieting, which is simply a gradual increasing of your calories. Usually, when you are transitioning out of a cut, so you've just been restricting your calories for some period of time, you've been in a deficit for some period of time to lose fat. Now you're done losing fat, you're ready to start eating more food. How do you go about it? You could just jump up to what you hope is your TDE. That's one way of doing it. And that can work fine. It's not that that's necessarily bad or wrong. Or you can increase your calories a little bit slower. Nothing over an extended period of time. It's not like, okay, you cut for 12 weeks, you need to reverse diet for 12 weeks. Not at all. It's only a few weeks. But I think it has a couple advantages over simply jumping your intake back up to what it was before you started dieting. And the first thing you need to know about this is when you have been restricting your calories for some time, your body adapts in various ways to try to reduce caloric expenditure and increase caloric intake. It's trying to erase that deficit because in the end, what are you doing when you are losing fat? You are mildly starving your body. Your body doesn't like that, of course, because if it goes on for too long, it dies. And your body doesn't know your plans. Unfortunately, you can't convince your body that, hey, this is only going to be for 12 weeks. Just calm down. You don't have to, create all these physiological adaptations. You don't have to make it harder on me. Let's go in the other direction. Why don't you increase testosterone levels? Make it easier on me so I can get through my cut faster, and then we'll go back to eating more. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. Your body assumes the worst and starts fighting you really from the beginning. And so when you are at the end of a cut, especially if you have been in a deficit for a while, your body is kind of primed to regain fat that you lost. That's an easy way of looking at it. It doesn't mean that you are guaranteed or that you have to regain any of the fat, but if you were to simply go with what your body wants, you would start eating way too much food right away, and you would gain more fat than usual from that. And that's where reverse dieting can be helpful. And again, the crux of reverse dieting is simply gradually increasing your calories in a systematic way to find your new TDE. And many people don't realize that their TDE after losing a lot of weight is going to be quite a bit lower than it was before they started dieting. And by quite a bit, I mean it could be a difference of 1 to 200 calories per day, but that can feel fairly significant. 200 calories a day, less food, can feel fairly significant if you were used to eating those 200 additional calories every day for a long period of time. And so the reverse diet allows your body to ease back into eating more food, and allows you to psychologically ease back into eating more food. Because what can also happen, and I've seen this many times working with many people over the years, is once the cut is done, people are relieved. Finally, they can eat more food, and so they immediately, let's just say a guy, keep the numbers simple. A guy ends his cut at 2,000 calories or 1,900 calories, and he's used to. Here's me actually. When I'm cutting, I'm usually starting around 23 and I'm having to end around 1,900, whereas my normal daily intake is closer to about 2,800. And so, that's a 900, in some cases, maybe even 1,000 calorie difference of intake to what I'm used to. Yeah, I'm looking forward to eating more food after being in a deficit for, let's say, 10, 12, 14 weeks, and then being in a rather large or aggressive deficit for at least 4 of those weeks. And so what can happen then is your intake can quickly spiral out of control because you no longer have to be in a deficit. You really want to eat more food. You're not necessarily going to be as disciplined with your tracking and your weighing and your measuring. And you might intend on, let's say in my case, I might intend on increasing my calories to, let's say, even just 2,600, a little bit lower, 2,700, just to see where things are at, see how my body's doing. But then you are around food, and what is supposed to be 26 or 2,700 calories turns into 32, 33, 34. And when you go from the end of a cut and your calories are quite low, let's say they're around BMR, to what turns into a pretty significant surplus, if you make that jump right away, you are going to gain fat faster than you realize. Okay, so that's why I recommend reverse dieting, and I do it myself. Again, just to clarify, it's not so much about the physiological adaptations. I know there are people out there that will make some evidence-based arguments as to why reverse dieting is necessary even to prevent post-diet fat gain, and I don't think that evidence is very compelling or convincing. But again, I still do like the concept of slowly increasing your calories over the course of several weeks to find your new TDE and set your calories into a range where you're no longer losing weight, you're no longer gaining weight, and you can go from there. If you want to maintain, if you want to go into, a surplus, to go into a lean bulk, you can do that without, again, causing any unnecessary fat gain. Okay, so how do you do it? Well, the first thing is, when you're going to do it, make sure that you are doing your heavy compound weightlifting. This is not a time to cut back on your workouts and do easier workouts, do a bunch of deload workouts basically. No, you want to continue to push yourself in the gym and doing those heavy compound weightlifting workouts. And by heavy, I mean working with weights that are somewhere in the range of, let's say, 75 to 85% of your 1 rep max at an RPE of about 8 or 9. So you're ending your sets with about 1 or 2 reps still left in the tank. And by compound, I mean focusing on exercises that involve multiple joints and multiple major muscle groups, as opposed to isolation exercises, which are more about isolating one muscle group. So it's usually a single joint exercise that primarily trains one muscle. Point number 2 with reverse dieting is you want to make sure you're keeping your protein up. This is important regardless of what you're doing with your diet, really. A high protein diet just is better than a low protein diet in pretty much every way for pretty much every person. There are exceptions, of course, but for everyone out there who is relatively healthy and who exercises regularly, and especially for people who train their muscles regularly, you want to be eating a high protein diet. And just to put a number on it, let's say if you're eating around 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight per day while you are reverse dieting, you are doing it right. And that leaves number 3, which is, of course, gradually increasing your calories. And what I recommend here is that you increase your total daily caloric intake by about 150 to 250 calories every 5 to 7 days. So women, when you're finished cutting, when you're at the end of a cut, I recommend that you are on the smaller end of that range, so that you're going to be increasing your total daily intake by about 150, maybe 200 calories every 5 to 7 days. And for us guys, a little bit more, 2 to 250. And that's the increasing your total daily intake every 5 to 7 days. So for example, let's say I finish a cut at 2,000 calories. My first increase will be up to 2,200 or 2,250. And then a week or so later, it'll bump up another 200 or 250. And then another week later, it'll bump up another 200 and 250. And at that point, I'm going to be done. I'm going to be more or less back to my TDE. And as far as macros go, I like to alternate between increasing my carbs and my fats. And I cap my fat intake, generally speaking, at about 80 grams a day. I generally don't eat more than 80 grams of fat per day because you simply don't need to. And I prefer to eat more carbs because that's more beneficial to my training and to my quest to gain muscle and strength. So I prefer more carbs, less fat, as opposed to 150 grams of fat per day, which may be fun. And I'm not that into super savory foods, but I'm sure I could figure out how to enjoy that. However, unfortunately, unless I were to start doing a lot of cardio, that would mean I'd have to significantly cut back on my carbs, and that would negatively impact my workouts and my post-workout recovery. Couple little things. One is, as you are reverse dieting, you may gain a little bit of weight because as you increase your carbs, your body is going to hold a bit more water and a bit more glycogen, which is a form of carbohydrate stored primarily in the liver and the muscles. And on the other hand, you may just continue losing weight. Many people experience that as well because you still are in a slight deficit in your first couple of weeks of reverse dieting. It's just a smaller deficit. So you might notice that you still lose a little bit of weight. You might lose, let's say you ended your cut at losing a half a pound a week, and you might find that throughout your reverse dieting, at least through the first couple of weeks, you are averaging a quarter of a pound loss per week. And that's fine. You can also find that some people experience that after a cut, especially if it's been a longer cut, and especially if it's been a more grueling cut where you're wanting to get really lean, so you're having to do a lot of exercise and you're having to do at least a bit of cardio to get there, that by reducing the amount of exercise that you're doing, which is of course very common when many people finish cutting, they will drop their cardio from, let's say, like 4 sessions a week to maybe 2 or something like that. So by reducing a bit of the exercise and increasing calories and increasing carbs, you will bring your body's cortisol levels down, which will cause a kind of whoosh effect, as they say in bodybuilding circles, where you are just now holding less water on the hole, which of course brings your body weight down and also makes you look better, makes you look leaner. And so the point here is it can go either way. You might see a slight uptick in the beginning, in the first week or so, as your muscles and your liver store more water and glycogen from the increasing carbs. Or you might even see a slight downtick. You might see a bump in weight loss because your body's cortisol levels come down from the increased food, the increased carbs, and the decreased exercise, which then results in a kind of whoosh effect, as they say in the bodybuilding circles, where you just are holding less water. And either way, it's fine. Just keep going. Now, what are you going for? Well, just in case I didn't make this clear earlier, is you are going for your new maintenance calories, your new total daily energy expenditure. Now, of course, you're never going to get there 100% on the dot because it's always a moving target and we can never fully accurately estimate it. But you want to get to the tight range of daily caloric intake that is going to result in weight maintenance. Now, no gain, no loss, just maintenance. And of course, the easiest way to do that is you just increase your calories, again, systematically, gradually, and you watch your weight. You weigh yourself every day, and you just take an average every 5 to 7 days or so, and you'll see that in the beginning, again, you might see a slight bump in your weight followed by some weight loss, and then eventually you'll see, as you continue to increase your calories, the weight loss stops, and you are not seeing really much of a change in your weight. And what I like to do is I like to go a little bit further, and I like to end where I actually see a little bit of weight gain occurring. So at the point where I gain so I've gone through the initial bump or no bump, and the weight loss has stopped, and now I continue increasing until I see about a quarter of a pound or so of weight gain in the 5 to 7 day period following the last caloric increase. That's where I stop my reverse diet, and that's what I assume is my new TDE. And the reason why I do that is I've found that I can eat a bit more than what causes weight loss to stall without continuing to gain weight. So for example, I might see that weight loss stalls. I'm no longer losing weight at, let's say, 2,600 calories, but I can go up to 2,800 calories and see a very slight increase in weight. Nothing that you can see in the mirror. There's no apparent change in body comp, and maintain. So I might be able to go up to 2,800 calories and eat an extra 200 calories every day with no negative ramifications, as opposed to stopping right at 2,600. So if I can eat more, it's going to help me in the gym, and it's going to also just help me in general. It's just nicer to eat more food, right? All right, well, that's it for this video. I hope you found it helpful. I kept it short, sweet, to the point. Sometimes I get that right. If you liked it, please do give it a like and drop a comment down below in the suggestions, letting me know what you thought. And also feel free to share your experiences with reverse dieting. How has it worked for you? Let me know. And also, of course, if you want to join the cool crowd and you want to know when my new stuff goes live, then click the red subscribe button down there somewhere. It is free, of course, and also click the little bell next to it, and YouTube will notify you when the next video goes live. And lastly, if you like what I have to say and if you like how I say it, then you should definitely check out my books. I have a few books that are worth mentioning. One is called Bigger, Leaner, Stronger, and that book is for men. I'll put a link up here. I have a book called Thinner, Leaner, Stronger, which is for women, of course. Link up there. And I also have a cookbook called The Shredded Chef, which is a flexible dieting cookbook. Link up there. Again, if you like these videos, if you like the way that I present things, and if you like how I do what I do, then you are really going to like the books. They have a ton of good information on diet, nutrition, training, as well as very simple but effective workout programs and diet regimens that you can follow to build your best body ever. Alrighty, well, that's it for this video. Again, I hope you liked it, and I will see you in the next one.